All right, here we are talking about our intro to OnShape or our CAD software. We are going to be talking about, this is going to be a two-part video. One is going to be kind of the concept of how to use CAD, how to start with it, and then the second part of the video is how do we actually use the tool that's in CAD itself. So, sorry, I had something going on outside I was looking at. So what we're going to do today for this first video is we're going to take this sketch and we're going to learn how to kind of look at this sketch and turn it, kind of decompose it, turn it back into a two-dimensional sketch, and then how do we take that two-dimensional sketch and then turn it into a three-dimensional sketch. So we're going to kind of decompose what we're looking at here so that we can recreate it. So there's really three steps that you've got to use for our CAD software. Step number one is you're going to make a 2D sketch. Okay. And so making that 2D sketch, we're looking at this guy and we're trying to figure out what is the best front view. And when you're thinking about your designs and how you're going to create something in OnShape or Autodesk or whatever it is, you want to try to make it in the smallest number of extrusions possible for your needs. So in this one, we're gonna forget about this little shelf for right now. We're just gonna focus on the overall kind of larger shape of this. And then the second step that you need to worry about is you need to dimension it. So when we're talking about dimensions, we're talking about distances, right? We're talking about space or measurements. And so we're going to dimension that 2D sketch. And we're going to focus on, and when we say two-dimensional sketch, we're talking about two directions. So we're only going to be focusing on measurements that run in two directions. And then 3, there's going to be some type of extrusion. So we're going to have extrude a distance. Okay, so we're talking, this is kind of the basic instructions, the basic steps that you're going to take for any design software, any 3D design software that you're working with. So that's kind of what we have to do conceptually here, and those are the steps that we're going to take. Okay, so step 1, we're going to draw a sketch, and we could do this proportionate on our paper because it is quarter-inch paper, but I'm just going to draw a general sketch. And your sketch doesn't necessarily have to be precise for your paper. So we're going to apply our CAD concepts to our paper, and then we're going to apply it in the second video to OnShape as our tool. Okay. So first, we're going to draw our outline, our major outline of that. So we've got our shelf going on here. So again, I'm just drawing really quickly. It's not even proportionally correct, which is fine. I'm not worried about that. I just need the general shape. Okay, so I've taken that shape right there, and I've got that general shape right there. And that's the outline of it. That's step number 1. Boom, done. Okay, and then we're going to dimension the sketch. So when we're talking about two dimensions, we're talking about dimensions running in one direction or another. So first, we're going to start off with the dimensions that run across the part, okay? So I'm looking for all the dimensions that are running in this direction. So our first one, which is our largest one, which is running in that direction, is 4. So I'm looking at that one. And so now we're going to try to find all of the dimensions that are running in that same direction in the part. So we're talking about this one right here, okay? And so now we're looking for any measurement that's running in that direction. So I've got this guy is going in that direction. Okay. See how this one's going up and down? We're not going to highlight that. And we're looking at this guy and this guy. And right now, I'm not worried about any of the other dimensions. Like I said, we're going to forget about that shelf. So if you are doing the shelf, the 0.75 would be running in that direction, but we're not doing that shelf right now. We're gonna leave that to another part of the assignment. So that means I can see all my yellow highlighted. That means those dimensions should belong in my drawing. They should be in there. So some people might get confused with that 2.5. Well, 2.5 is not running in this direction, right? It's not running in that yellow direction. So now let's come back, and you'll notice that like some people are confused by the arrows kind of being on the outside of those guidelines. Well, they're only on the outside of the guidelines because there's just no room on the inside of it. Okay, so we got 0.5 inches there, and then we're going to come back. So that's this guy right here. Boom, done. Boom, done. And then we're going to go here, again from the outside, 0.5 inches. Okay, and then we're looking at 2 inches across the top for this part. So I got 2 inches. And then going across this last little shelf here, 1 inch. Okay, so those are all my yellow highlighted right there. So I've got they all match up, right? And again, I just went through and I looked for any dimension that is running in this direction, right? Like it's going this direction, as opposed to like up and to the right or up and down. And so I went through and highlighted all the ones that were going in that direction. So now we're going to look for the dimensions that are running up and down. So we want to figure out, okay, what is the measurement going from here to here? Okay, so I'm looking at this guy, and he's going up and down. And so how tall is this thing? Or maybe it should be actually to this one. I think it actually measures, right? And so we can measure to, I think, to this line. So I'm looking for things that are going up and down. Well, the measurements going up and down in our case from this line to this line are actually the 1.5 right there. Okay, and then we've got the 1 and the 1 right there. Okay, so I've got 1 inch for that top part, and I've got 1.5 inches. And there's another one running up and down, right? There's this guy that's running up and down. Okay, so he's going up and down. And then that is this one right here. And normally we wouldn't draw on top of a drawing, but it's kind of getting busy over there for our purpose. So we've got 0.5 inches here. Okay, and again, those are all the measurements running up and down. So we've got to get all our dimensions in. And some of you are like, well, I think you might be missing some over here, Gibbs. We're not missing them over here because this line lines up with this line, right? And so that measurement up and down is 1. And this measurement across, that would be yellow, is 1. And it's 1 because 4 inches minus 3 inches, that 2 plus 1 is 3, is 1 inch. Okay? So you guys are now we're looking at the up and down measurement, right? So we've got our top to bottom, the ones that are running up and down are on the y-axis, or a z-axis in this case, is running up and down. And then we need one last thing. We need our extrusion. Like, how is this going to extrude in, how far is that going to extrude in that direction? Okay, and so our extrusion measurement, and I'm going to color this one in orange. Okay, and that's this guy right here. So he's going in the opposite direction. He's going off in that direction. And we're going to say our extrusion is 2.5 inches. Okay, and really this is the building blocks, the kind of concept, the basic concept of how you're going to use CAD. Like, everything else is like, okay, where are the tools in Autodesk, or where are the tools in OnShape? Like, how do we find that exact thing in OnShape to be able to do that? You know, how do we find the dimensioning tool? How do we find the sketching tool? Everything else is like, okay, now I know what the tool is called, like, but where do I find it? So this is kind of your basic concept of what you're supposed to be doing in Autodesk. And now we're going to take that kind of concept, and in the next video, you're going to see me applying this concept to OnShape. So check out the next one if you're interested.